Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. I am joined with, once again, by the infested, inquiring, redundant Baconator.
Hello, my friend.
That was a
I'm
mouthful.
broadcasting live from
But it's
English to
bacon,
America.
so mouthful makes sense.
Yeah. Well, for those who don't know, I try to make all of my user titles sound like Fear Factory songs.
With bacon.
Yeah, with bacon. Yeah. Well, the
Everything.
Baconator is in honor of our English friend who is fighting back against Islamofascism. You know.
Everywhere, all the time, all at once.
Yeah.
And Michigan. But yeah, anyway.
So, our friends who are listening, this is probably the shortest thing we've ever reacted to. So, is it theoretically possible for us to even make it longer than a half an hour reaction? Tune in to find out.
Possibly. Depends on how much we want to break down, but we'll find out. All right.
Yeah.
So there's a YouTuber who I mostly interact with, not like actually interact with, but like interact with their content on Facebook. But I found the YouTube stuff so I could like actually show it, make it easier. Normally I really like her takes because she's like pro book and she makes funny little skits with Book Goblin and all the other things. And I generally like her content and I enjoy it. This one I thought was a swing and a miss, and we'll go into details as to why as we get there. So hang on to your bootstraps because it's a bit of a doozy.
We're taking off.
The only time I see the general public caring about historical accuracy in medieval or fantasy media is when it's an excuse to be racist.
Okay, so the idea that you care about historical accuracy and therefore you are racist because you care about it, because in their minds the only reason possibly that you could have a problem with something historically accurate, because like, I don't know, Anne Boleyn being black or Cleopatra being black, or all these people historically who are not black, because it's not racist if you make them black, but it's racist if you say they're not black.
Yeah.
That makes sense somehow.
Well,
I don't know.
So when she says fantasy, whatever, not all fantasy novels
fantasy
are written
or medieval.
to be. Yeah, well, I'm gonna the second part.
I got you.
Not all fantasy series or core creations, like for example, Naruto is a fantasy creation, right? But it's clearly set on an entire other planet, right? Whereas, say, Lord of the Rings is a fantasy creation, but it's set, for those who don't know, on a sort of facsimile of our Earth at a time in the past, either 5,000, either about 6,000 BC or about 20,000 BC.
No, it's way before that. It's way.
No. Tolkien is very specific. It's between certain ice ages.
Well, I know, but 6,000 years ago, we already had Egypt in play, so it couldn't have possibly.
No, I said 6,000 BC. I didn't say.
Yeah, BC.
But the point I'm getting at is, and I agree, it's more like the 20,000 years ago. I don't want to go crazy over that. But the point is, Tolkien chose to set his setting on the real world, which means it means he did that on purpose. So have the traipsing of the real world, like it takes place in northwestern Europe. So the people in his novels will, for the most part, look like the people of northwestern Europe, who will be the answers of Scandinavians and such,
Yeah.
And the Celts and all. So when you have to factor that in when you talk about fantasy and medieval literature or whatever. Like
media.
One, what is the creator's intent? Two, does the historical accuracy mean something? For example,
well, you have to break it up a little bit more than that, because you have, what is the creator's intent? Are we talking the creator of the source material, or are we talking creator of the new material?
I don't care about the new material.
Well, no, but that's what the creation is going to be, because obviously the source material is historically accurate, but the current stuff isn't. The argument isn't, is the original material, source material, historically accurate?
Okay.
The problem is the new stuff.
I will address that as soon as I address this other point, right?
Sure.
So some things which are set with historical trappings, let's say, like say the Dresden Files. I don't think you've read, but
I have not.
I don't know. That's a modern like urban fantasy, but it references like an alternative history of the real world with the fairies and all that sort of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is less important, even though Jim Butcher himself tries to make things relatively accurate. He said if the choice is between what he needs for the story versus making sure a particular group who was known for having, you know, um, red hair doesn't have red hair in the story, he's going to go towards what makes the story work. You know, like so
Or he
some
could just write
fantasy.
better, but there's that too.
He's right very well. That's the
Well, I'm
point
saying,
is,
like, if you're coming across a problem where, like, oh, I either have to choose to make the story do well or this person have red hair because this whole area is supposed to have red hair, it's like, well, why can't you do both?
well, again, you're getting sidetracked. The point I'm making is
I'm just saying.
not all fantasy series, even if they take place in history, are like place a high priority on historical accuracy.
Yeah.
There's different types of fantasy, which she apparently does not recognize. Now, to your point about the modern creation versus, like, I'm not talking about, like, I don't care about Rings of Prime or whatever.
Yeah, but the thing is that's what
because
she's referencing.
uh
That's what she's referencing because they're saying when
well,
something.
I'm about to address our point, right?
Go for it. Go for it.
Because Rings of Prime, regardless of its degree of accuracy, is so horribly written from a point of view of being badly written, not from the point of view of woke or whatever. That's bad, right? But even if you wipe all of that out, right? If you just examine it for its own sake, it is so horribly written that it fails on its face for that reason, and that's why I don't care about it.
Well,
You know?
it's just evidence that if you throw a wall of money at bad content creators or creators of general, they're going to still be bad. It doesn't matter how
Yeah,
much money you throw at it;
you
it's
know,
going to be bad because they're bad at what they do.
if those two guys who ran this show, you know, or like said, okay, we're going to make it book accurate, but we're introducing woke elements, which is specifically want to make a show targeting woke people, right? The right. I would have like, okay, it's not for me, but that's not what they were doing. They deliberated a show to subvert the War of the Rings with this garbage.
Yeah,
you know. So.
Well, she's not talking about Rings of Power explicitly. She's talking about all media as a whole. So I just think it's funny when they're like, anytime they want to be historically accurate in the general populace, it's because of these things. And then she's going to proceed to list off some things. So let's see.
So
they will turn up.
She spoke for like 10 seconds, and you and I got 10, 20 minutes out of it.
Not even 5 seconds, actually, but yeah.
Blind eye to mohawks. That smeared.
That's not a mohawk, but okay.
Face
Stop. Okay, those type of hairstyles were in rough form possessed by the ancient Scandinavians. Okay,
but they're not mohawks.
No, she's calling it a mohawk, but what we would call a mohawk, that's, let's say, a generalized term for mohawk, was the type of hairstyle they had.
Well,
just like they had dreadlocks.
I would say some had, not all of them had, but yeah.
Well, I mean that was in their culture.
It was in the overview of possible hairstyles. It wasn't like it wasn't necessarily the normal one. It wasn't necessarily non-existent. It was just kind of it was an option.
We had photos of 1,000 people from the 9th century in Scandinavia. We might see a couple, like 50 of them with that hairstyle. You know, the same thing with dreadlocks, as was pointed out by actual black people, Jamaicans. Europeans had dreadlocks too. So did Asians. You know. The oldest known like artistic depiction of dreadlocks are cave paintings in England.
Also, I don't know what she's talking about. Like, she says the general population. Well, the general population that watches Vikings doesn't know anything about Vikings. Like they don't. Yeah. They're watching it as a form of entertainment. And is it entertaining? Sure. Yeah. But is it accurate? Not really. Like some aspects of it are. Most of it probably not so much. They lean more into the drama rather than the real life existence.
Well, you know it's accurate because the gods are real in Vikings.
The what?
The Norse gods are real in Vikings.
Well, I know, but I'm saying from like a normal stuff. Like if you take out the supernatural aspect of it, the rest of it would be like, this is what their house would look like. This is how their community interacted. Yeah. In this, it's more, there's lots of backstabbing. There's lots of betrayal. There's a lot of pining for political power or power in general. and some of the stuff is interesting, like if they do shield walls, if they don't do shield walls, if they wear helmets, if they don't wear helmets, if they tattoo everything, or they don't like that kind of stuff. People just assume that because I think it wasn't the History Channel that did Vikings or something. Somebody, I thought it was the History Channel, but I could be wrong. It could be the Discovery Channel.
No, it's not Discovery Channel for sure.
But either way, people just assume, oh, it's on this channel, therefore it must be accurate. That's where the general population is going to go from. They're not going to be screaming at it, it's inaccurate, it's inaccurate.
Well,
like, they're not going to do that because they don't know better.
I think the general population is now going to assume it's all bullshit.
Well,
even when
I'd say a portion of it is, but
I'd say half the country at least.
Stupid uses of cavalry. Women with their hair whorishly uncovered.
Well, okay.
Europe?
Let's go back to
paint stuff.
Smeared paint stuff. Nobody cares about paint stuff, but it's pretty common for war paint to be a thing.
Yeah.
It's not really that weird of a thing. Stupid use of cavalry. Yeah, that's not a place you would actually use horses like that. But it does give them the speed that they need to crash into them and wipe them out.
And there were historically stupid uses of cavalry.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, just because, well, I would say yes and no to that, because some people would say, well, see, I can do stupid uses of cavalry in my stuff. It's like, no. It's one of it is because it actually happened and it was an actual use that they used it for. Another one is because you're terrible at writing the story. So don't use it as an excuse to do your job poorly. Use it as a, hey, this worked for this general, so I can use this general and hope it works, because otherwise it could go horribly wrong and I could lose half my cavalry instantaneously. So that, in that sense, it helped, because in The Lord of the Rings, you got the sun rising from where they're arriving, and as they go down a hill, which would help them on horses gain a lot of momentum, the light hits the orcs' eyes, or the Uruk's eyes, and then they're blinded by it, and they can't freaking see anything. Which means the guys in the front lift their freaking pole. Like there's actual reasons as to why that was shot that way.
Not to be too picky, but he made the hill too steep in the movie.
Yeah, he did. But I'm just saying, like, that's the point of this. That's why they were trying to like work everything up. But whether or not that landscape was intended to be that way in the actual books, I don't know. Probably not. But
it wasn't. But no, that's been discussed. But that's just side. Anyway,
it's a very and people who talk about Lord of the Rings, they do point out the inaccuracies. You do it all the time.
Yeah.
Even I do it. There's accuracies issues, but the general population who isn't familiar with the source material doesn't know those things. So why is she talking about the general population? Because this isn't obvious, right?
She's part of the general population, but she doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Cavalry. Women with their hair whorishly uncovered.
Okay. Now we don't like I wouldn't watch that and be like, her hair is horribly uncovered, because it's not something I know about that time period and how they do things. I would be more used to them having their hair up. They didn't do ponytails and stuff, but they had their hair like in the weird buns stacked on their head or whatever. But
there are tons of cultures in Europe and Asia and Africa, I think and the New World that have their hair down like that.
But and here's the thing, is that
I wonder
if they did it bad. I'm pretty sure that's a rendition of Pride and Prejudice. People are like, it's not the best. So it's not like I'm pretty sure generally not acknowledged to not be the best rendition of Pride and Prejudice, because there were like characters didn't behave properly, or the way they dressed, or the way they behaved. Like there's reasons people don't like it, and that's a generally accepted thing. But on the flip side, some people say, I know it's not generally accurate, but I still enjoy it. But it's a minuscule topic, because if she was wearing, like, I don't know, rap and hip hop clothes from 2029 or something, well, then I would have a more big of a problem with it, and that would stand out like a sore thumb in the actual movie, and everybody would notice it and say that wouldn't fit, and everybody generalized completely would be like, that is an inaccuracy, because it's obviously an inaccuracy.
Leather armor.
Yeah, leather armor is kind of an annoying thing, because it wouldn't be something you'd throw on your front line.
Well, that depends. I mean,
They'd
the
be more like
majority, your front
archers with
line could have
bodkin armor
been,
and stuff.
well,
Like
it's a convoluted thing
the
because,
majority of your army would want something of like you have Bronze Age, you have Iron Age, you have all the like in the Bronze Age they had bronze chest plates. Like you're not you're not just like you might have
well,
guys that don't wear anything, they just wear cloth or whatever, but
the
leathers.
majority of army are going to be a bunch of conscripted peasants who are lucky if they have a shield, a helmet, and a gambeson,
Yeah,
like a gambeson,
gambeson.
and a farm implement to fight with.
Yeah,
So
and
that's the, you
but
know,
that's the thing is that's your levies, right? But when
which
they
is the
show
majority
the
of army.
I know, but when they show these armies, we're talking about like the actual man at arms. The man at
Yeah.
arms are dressed in leather. Like this guy's a king and he's dressed in leather. He's not wearing no flipping leather. He's wearing the best freaking armor money can buy.
Yeah.
Like, and we
Although
can
leather was fairly abundant. I'm not. Don't. I mean, there will
well
be
yeah.
chunk of guys with leather armor.
I get it. Leather is abundant, but it's not the best for
Yeah.
military use, is what I'm saying. And the more important you are, the less likely you're going to be wearing leather instead of something that's a little harder to puncture.
No,
or
your regular your not your levy fodder, but your regular fodder would have leather. You know,
yeah.
'cause why would you waste metal on guys you
Well,
expect to die?
again, you're on your levies though. You're not paying money for it.
Yeah.
They're providing it for themselves because it's their lives they have to protect, right? I suppose
No, they would
if you
often
were
get
a
like
very benevolent lord, you would give them some armor, but you'd have to also
usually
tax them
they
for
would try
it.
to get a helm and a shield from the Lord, and then if they had time, people would make the Gimbison, you know.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
But my point is that
Yeah.
the picture she's showing is of a guy who's wearing a crown on his head, which means he's important enough to where leather armor isn't
Yeah.
going to be his choice.
Yeah.
Pretty
Well, that's the
simple.
medieval leather fetish, you know.
Yeah, and the thing is that I would see that, and it wouldn't even cross my mind because I'm not looking at that. I'm more analyzing the story rather than I'm analyzing
Well,
the props.
there's
Because that at
of
least
all
looks
the
better
things,
than Wheel of Time, and that looks better than freaking Rings of Power.
of all the things to complain about in these shows, just having people wear leather armor is like not in the top 100. You know.
Well, I mean, it's the thing that like Metatron or Shad would talk about, and I'm fine with it because I like to hear those interesting thoughts. But it's not
Yeah.
something the general population thinks about because they're the general population. They're not
Yeah.
specialists. Her argument is the
Yeah.
general population, so it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
And literally every single thing that's happening here.
It's just Vikings. I mean, yeah, I didn't go into Vikings saying this is historically accurate, and I didn't have that much of a backdrop on what it was. Like, I looked it up afterwards. I don't remember very much of it since, but I looked a little bit of it. It's like, okay, that this is inaccurate. This is inaccurate. This is happening. This is happening. Like, whatever the case might
Vikings
be.
was like
It's a Game of Thrones. Really.
Vikings was about as accurate as Hamlet was.
The stage one with Black Hamlet.
Hamlet, the Shakespearean play Hamlet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that play is based on the story that underlies the Northman.
Hmm.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not. But again, I'm the general population, so I'm just racist.
Yeah. And you remember Amleth from the Northman? That character Amleth?
I do not.
You can see the Northman?
I don't think I've seen it yet.
Oh wow, you need to see it.
Dude, there's so many things I have to see. Everyone's like, you need to see
It
this.
gets
I'm
a
like,
little
yes,
long
I know.
in the middle.
I need time.
It gets a little long in the middle, but as far as Viking fables go, it's really good.
Yeah, the
but that
Northman
Prince
was on my
Amleth-
list that I like. I want to see.
And his story is who Hamlet was based on. Shakespeare based Hamlet on.
I always thought Hamlet
So
was
the show
English. but yeah.
Vikings is about as accurate as Hamlet is in terms of being an adaptation of an older tale.
Yeah.
Which is why I wasn't surprised when the gods were real, and and some of the weird stuff some of the characters do, like the son who couldn't walk and all that,
Yeah.
but she must think, I don't know, she comes across as someone who was maybe like obsessed with this show, who can't accept that it's a fantasy.
Well, no, her whole thing. Okay. Her whole thing, and this is the only time she ever goes like bonkers that I've ever seen. Really, maybe she has one or two other shorts out of there out of like 1,000. But essentially, her thing is that she's saying, well, if you don't have a problem with the historical inaccuracies in these things, then you can't have a historical problem with black people being cast as white people in places where black people don't exist. That's her argument, but we'll get there.
But the moment an actor is anything but mayonnaise white.
Okay.
If they're supposed to be mayonnaise white and they're not mayonnaise white, that kind of stands out a little
Yeah.
bit more.
So I can't see the picture. Is she talking about in the sequel to Vikings?
I don't know if it's even the Vikings. It's just a black dude with dreads dressed in a gambeson next to two Knights Templar kind of looking guys. They're from Richard the
So they
Lionheart.
have
It's
in
a
the
Richard the
sequel,
Lionheart England armor.
so in the sequel to Vikings called Viking Valhalla, they took the role of a white male baron and turned him into a black woman.
Oh no, this is a black dude.
And it wasn't just a black woman playing. It was like, oh, she was really black or whatever type of. So a lot of fans of Vikings said, "Fuck it, we're out." Now this show, the question. This is, I guess, a movie about Richard the Lionheart.
Maybe, I guess. I see the lion on the chest and it reminds me of Richard the Lionheart. So I'm assuming these are crusaders that went to crusade and they ran into this guy, whoever he's supposed to be. I don't know the story because I don't know what movie this is, but all I know is that if that guy is from England, then he's inaccurate. But it's an obvious one, as opposed to, oh well, his gambeson should be like a foot longer and his toenails should be painted pink because that's what they did back then. Like those are different generalities, because again, the general populace has to be able to spot this is literally playing with Hollywood, the game of spot the difference.
So I don't know. I mean, I want to be very careful with talking about this, okay? Because I don't know what this is from and what time period it's set in or whatever, right? So
it's in the time period of the Crusades because it's Richard the Lionheart. So
prior to the conquering of the Middle East by Muslims, okay, from Arabia, Egypt was Christian, Ethiopia still is majority Christian, Syria was Christian, Judea was Jewish and Christian.
Constantinople was Christian. Most of Turkey was Christian.
Yeah. So, if I'm gonna be a better writer than they probably are. Okay.
Ironically, no, those places were historically black, but yeah.
Well, I mean, if the premise is they went on the crusade and there was some local Christians from Ethiopia who joined them, this is one of those guys. That could be very historically accurate.
Sure.
Or even from Egypt.
I should amend it. Ethiopia is obviously black. Not Egypt.
They would have had a mixed population in Egypt of Arab-looking people, black people.
But I would also say that if you had Ethiopians coming up to join the Crusades, that would be historically inaccurate as well.
Well, I think there were small groups of Christians from all over who signed up.
Well, yeah, but the call for the Pope was mostly in Europe.
That's true, but once they settled over there in the conquered lands, Christians came from other land. Besides.
Sure. I mean, there's the pilgrimages and all that kind of stuff. But that's the thing is we don't know. But the point is that would be something that the general person wouldn't say that.
But saying there were no black people involved in the Crusades, well, an alternative could have been.
Well, these are with English guys, so this is implying that it's coming from England. Because if this guy just met them in Jerusalem, that's a different story. But if this guy's like, I'm the Baron of the freaking northern parts of England, then you'd be like, no,
that's horrible. But they make him a sailor, like who's traveling with Christian sailors, and it depends. I don't know the product they're talking about.
But her argument is that the general populace has a problem with this because he's not mayonnaise white. But here's the funny part is that she didn't explain what his role is or anything, so I don't even know if she knows what his role is. I can only presume, because standing next to two English soldiers, preferably men-at-arms, looks like, from England, Richard the Lionheart's England, that they're taking this from a different perspective than what we're probably looking at it from. But she's thinking the general population has a problem with this, therefore they're racist. It's like, but again, let's play spot the difference with Hollywood.
Well, we go crazy about this stuff now because of what they're doing.
Do people give Game of Thrones a hard time when they had a Starbucks coffee on the freaking table? Yes, Yes, they did. Why? Let's play Spot the Difference. What doesn't belong in this?
Yeah.
Oh, a coffee cup from Starbucks. It's a pretty obvious, easy to spot thing. What else is easy to spot? A sea of white Europeans and an army, a little small group battalion of black people that aren't historically from that area. And the story is being told that they're just naturally from the northern areas, which doesn't make any sense historically.
Well, that's the thing. This is my point on one of this is if the show's premise is it includes that degree of historical accuracy, like I was saying before, then you can't have a black guy playing a guy from England. You can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she's
But if the
going
show
to
is
make a
just-
claim at the end that we'll get to, but the ironic part about this is where if you don't have a problem with the horribly uncovered hair or the leather armor, blah blah blah, I'm like, do you have a problem with that? And if you say yes, you are against historical inaccuracies. I would say if I'm aware of it, I'm against it. If I'm not aware of it, I'm ignorant about the topic because I'm not into armor and that type of stuff because I've read about what they wore, but I never saw what they wore, so I don't know what it looks like in terms of that. Like I've seen somebody did the Odyssey that Christopher Nolan did. They had like the trailer or whatever or the leak. And somebody took that and they put in Bronze Age historical armor in it. And it looks nothing like what my mind imagines bronze armor.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I would never have thought of that because this isn't my specialty. My specialty isn't medieval armor. It's not in ancient history armor. It's not in weaponry and stuff from that time period. I know some things about it. Like I know what chariots are. I know how they would use cavalry. I know that you prefer spears over swords. I get that type of stuff. But when it comes to this stuff, some of this is probably so minor of an issue when it comes to the general population being aware of it, because most of the population's not going to be aware of it. But if you've got freaking a person who's clearly not Greek, played by a black person, that he's supposed to be Greek, you might be like, well, hold on a second. That's not
There's
what
a much
Greeks
higher
look like.
chance of there being a black guy from Greece than there is from England. I'll tell you that much.
Well, yeah, but the Greeks, they wouldn't be soldiers or commanders, which is what they are. So she's kind of self-defeating her own argument. Either she doesn't have a problem with all those minor historical inaccuracies.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have a problem with the horribly uncovered hair. She doesn't have a problem with the leather. She doesn't have a problem with the Viking face paint, war paint. She doesn't have a problem with all those things because she doesn't have a problem with this. So she doesn't care about the historical accuracy point, but she's making the argument that it's historically inaccurate and therefore meh.
Oh my god! Suddenly the legions of keyboard warriors care.
Anybody cares about accuracy, which is how storytelling operates the best, would care. So yeah.
Don't talk to me about historical accuracy, peasant.
Okay, you've already destroyed your own view on historical accuracy, peasant. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Not that it should matter, but non-white people have been in northwestern Europe since forever.
Historically
Since no.
inaccurate. Historically inaccurate.
The first written record we have of a black person in Britain is from the Roman period. Literal ancient times.
But they're not from Britain. They were found in Britain. That's an entire different thing. Okay.
You know when the Romans who had armies from all three major continents of all different colors.
They
and
also
then-
had enormous amounts of slaves. Yes, those guys.
Yeah. But I'm saying if a Roman army was raised in Africa, a good chance there are black people in it. And that army might have been called to go to England for some reason. So
And go figure that if they had sorties into other countries and they came back with slaves and prisoners of war and stuff, and like shocking that they'll have somebody, and then when they take a battalion of people that have wealth and stuff and they take either their slaves or whoever with them, well, yeah, they're in Britain. And then they die. And it's like, oh, we found a black person in Britain. Doesn't mean that person's from Britain. It means that person went to Britain. And that's if that's accurate. I don't know how accurate that is because I've had some questionable things about that they found. And I believe Sargon of Akkad had a video on something where they're like, we found this person and that we found out that they were black, and then now we're finding out that they were actually white Saxon,
Well,
so they're not actually
the
black.
story with that is that they were contending that the person that the facial reconstructor said was black was representative of all those people,
Yeah,
that they were all black, whereas the DNA test proved otherwise. So
yeah. Well,
it wasn't the case that they were saying there was one black person. They're saying that all those people were black.
well, yeah, but they were making the argument that this person was black and this person was in fact not black. That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
We have 3 Viking.
We have 3 Viking Age graves of Scandinavian individuals with West African DNA, but y'all don't want to talk about that.
Okay, hear about this. You have 3 Viking Age. Okay, whoopity-doo, Viking Age. That's what, late medieval?
I have Viking DNA and African DNA. That doesn't make me
That's
an
because we're
African or a
Sicilian,
Viking.
dude. Sicilians are the melting pot of the world.
So we're Viking and all the Mediterranean.
I know, but I'm saying, like,
Vikings-
the Vikings went to Sicily, the Africans went to Sicily, the Europeans went to Sicily, the freaking Middle Easterners went to
Vikings
Sicily,
were a
everybody went to
seaborne
Sicily.
culture. They would have had Vikings who they would have taken people back from other,
Yeah. But that what percentage of West African DNA do they have? Maybe a Viking raider went down there and said, hey, I'm attracted to this exotic looking woman. I'm going to take her back to my place, teach her my language, and she's going to be my wife. And we're going to. Cool story, bro. That doesn't mean Vikings are black. That means that there were Vikings that had black brides, I guess black husbands would probably be less likely, but maybe they even had slaves. Cool story. But that doesn't mean Scandinavia is black. It means it's people going, like, I don't know how people don't understand what migration is, forced or otherwise. Like, it's migration is when people go from one place to another. But if you don't have anything prior to this Viking Age where there's anybody up there, then you can't say these people were black. But then when they make an entire series where they had this huge tribe, or I don't know how big it was, maybe huge is probably not the wrong word. There's this whole tribe of just black dread-wearing Vikings, and the tribal chieftain was black with dreads, and we're like, how about nah? Like, even if you had 1 or 2 around there and you could come up with possibly an excuse, but here's the thing. That's the exception. So if she's like, we found 3 in Scandinavians with West African DNA. Cool story, bro. That's 3 out of how many?
I think she's drinking the Kool-Aid in
Yeah.
a sense of with the blackification of the Europeans.
Well, it's the thing is, it's like, okay, even if there were 3 individuals with West African DNA, even if that were the case, that would be the exception, not the rule. And this is about as bad as freaking Ubisoft Montreal, freaking French, deciding to make an Assassin's Creed game about the only black dude in Japan. The only black dude. He would be an exception and a historical figure, so you have to do it right. But he would be an exception. It doesn't mean Japan is black. Like, you don't say that. Like, well, we have evidence of a black person in Japan. Cool story, bro. Somebody brought them there. Like, that's nowhere near Africa.
We're melanin endowed people, minority.
Anywhere other than where they are from, yes, they are by definition minorities.
Yes, but they were there.
She
They have
just
always
gave
been
herself
there,
away by
and
saying
that's the
melanated god people.
Huh? What'd you say?
She just gave herself away when she said
You're cutting up. You're still cutting up. Roboting. Test 1 2 1 2.
Oh Lord.
Oh, there you go. I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And immediately you robot. I hear you clear, and then boom.
Catch up.
Here.
But now.
Keep talking. How about you drop out and rejoin, and I'll pop you back in. Drop out, and I'll bring you back in. Refreshal rate. So, I mean, besides having the crazy eyes right here, were these people that were non-white Europeans minorities? Yes. Well, that means that they're not from those areas because they can't be minorities in places you're from. By definition, they wouldn't be minorities. So, the concept that people would be upset about Anne Boleyn being black when we have paintings of Anne Boleyn from Anne Boleyn's time, and she's a redhead, or at least it's a red hue. It might be like a red brown, but she's a pasty white lady, and having the darkest possible blackened skin as you could possibly have to be the complete counterpoint is literally Netflixifying whatever it is.
Fascinating. Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So I was saying, when she said melanin and Dowd or whatever she said exactly, those are leftist code words. She revealed herself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Well,
look at the audience look on her face too.
I know I
It's
said
like,
the crazy eyes didn't help, but
Yeah.
I have crazy eyes from last night's stream. But no,
does she have blue tinted hair? Look at the edges.
no, it's just brown.
But
But no, like I was mentioning while you were gone that like there are things where like you have Anne Boleyn. Like we know what Anne Boleyn looks like.
Yeah.
She's got either really red hair or reddish brown hair, and she is pasty white.
Yeah.
Right? So when they cast somebody who's the blackest black you could possibly ever black to be literally the polar opposite of the description, and it's not that big of a deal. And it's like, well, if that's the case, why don't you make her green? Why don't you make her an alien from another planet and come down? Because we're throwing it out the window at this point.
I think I remember the production you were talking about, right? Now,
It's hard to forget that production.
Well, I don't recall if they were going for how much historical accuracy with that sort of thing.
If you're
I
making
do
a
remember
period
the
piece,
actors.
it naturally is going to be a historical accuracy, unless it's blatantly something else, like the Norseman comedy. Like, that's a comedy. It's a blatant comedy, and no one's looking at it to be like historically accurate. But despite that, it's still more accurate than most of the stuff that came out.
The actress chosen has English blood, so I'm less opposed. As long as someone fits the ethnicity, I'm less opposed to them.
Well, that means Sicilians can be anybody, anywhere, because we have everybody's blood.
Well, we're the most awesome people on the earth, my friend. Remember that.
Well, I am aware of that, but I'm saying like we have everybody's blood.
So yeah, exactly.
Possible. So if we have everybody's blood, then you can never say, "Well, you can't play a black person." I could be the next freaking Black Panther.
Play anyone, my friend.
I know.
We are the natural rulers of the earth.
I could be the next Black Panther, and I'm about as pasty white as it gets.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, I support that.
If that's the case, then it's like, well, then you have to put me in because I have black lineage somewhere because I'm Sicilian. And if that's, but the thing is that when descriptions are used, they're not talking about their DNA. They're talking about their phenotype, like what they appear as.
Again, that's when it comes down to how accurate they're trying to be.
But it's not even. It doesn't even have to be accurate. It's like, okay, we're gonna have a softball thrown at us. It's called the description of somebody. Or of a people group. Like, let's say the Kyrianan, for example. The Kyrianan are all short. So let's take this to
logical extremes, right? Let's say the people of England intermarry such that all the people of England are now, like, not white anymore.
That would take a long time to do, but yes.
Are they not allowed to do Shakespeare anymore then because of that? Are they not allowed to do movies by Anne Boleyn?
I mean,
that's why, to me...
You'd have to literally commit genocide for that, but okay.
That's why, to me, ethnicity is the important thing, because your culture is tied to your ethnicity.
Well, yes, but that's like saying a Frenchman who can speak perfectly good English can't play an Englishman. What does their ethnicity matter compared to their phenotype? Because you could still do anything, play wise that's
That's when it comes
British,
down to.
like Shakespeare, if you have somebody who fits the description, even if they're not
But
from the
okay,
area, because the purpose
this is
isn't
where
there.
it comes down to the intent of the production. For example, Jordan and Tolkien were very specific about characters looking certain ways. See, that's important, right? But you know, it was less important to Harry Potter, but so they could play with that stuff.
Okay, well, how about this? How about this? Since those
So
things don't matter, what about the story matters?
the plot, the characters.
Well, the plot, you could have Lord of the Rings set in a futuristic sci-fi. Is it Lord of the Rings still?
It could be.
No, it couldn't. You could have plot
Yeah, it could be.
points be similar, but it wouldn't be Middle Earth, because it'd be some Cybertron planetary existence out somewhere.
It would be a loose adaptation, sure, but
Okay,
like
a loose adaptation? Come on. It wouldn't even be an adaptation. It'd be a plagiarism.
For example, if they took a Japanese samurai movie and redid it in, say, a Western, could that work?
I mean, from a comedy perspective, sure.
So they,
But comedy has a whole different thing. Like nobody watches a comedy and thinks, "Man, this is historically accurate."
I baited a trap for you, right? I put a trap in here. Okay, so Akira Kurosawa is the Seven Samurai, right? One of the greatest movies ever made. Okay, has been adapted as the Magnificent Seven, one of the best westerns ever made.
Sure,
has been adapted as Battle Beyond the Stars, a science fiction movie.
Sure,
but
it's it's ironically the Magnificent Seven. It's not the Seven Samurai. While the plot points are similar.
It's the same basic story and same basic characters.
Well, sure, but people in real life can do those things without ever, like, let's say somebody from 1,000 years ago did something that was done 1,000 years before that without ever knowing that other story ever existed. They just did similar things. And much in the kin where you have a samurai story from probably the 16th century up to a Western in the 18th century. And let's say that stuff actually did happen. And then they weren't just rewrites. They're two entirely different stories, but they did virtually the exact same stuff. That is possible. But I would never continue, even if it was like, hey, what if we take this and make this with it instead, and we're going to change everything. But we don't look back and say, that's Seventh Samurai. We would say, that's the Magnificent Seven.
Which is an adaptation of the Seven Samurai.
I would say it's a very poor adaptation because it's missing...
No, it's a very good adaptation.
It's missing Japan, actually.
Well, you are in a rare minority. No. You are an extreme minority of people, my friend.
It doesn't matter if I'm in a minority. Truth's not a democracy. That doesn't matter. But when it comes to an adaptation, it has to resemble it. So the only thing that resembles the Seven Samurai from the Magnificent Seven is town in need, and guy goes, grabs a bunch of people, and comes back and saves town. That's literally it.
The seven gunfighters had almost identical personalities in the Seven Samurai, including which ones lived and which ones died, with one exception. The story stayed the same.
Okay, those are what we call minor plot points.
Those are major plot points.
No, the major plot point is a guy gathers a group of guys, and they come save a town from a bad guy. That's a pretty broad, like, how many stories have good guy gathers support to fight bad guy? I mean, that's literally every hero story, like, everywhere.
The particular person doing the gathering and the particular gathering part of the story is Seven Samurai.
But if I said I like Seventh Samurai, and you like, hey, well, you should watch Magnificent Seven, I'd be like, well, no, I'm not interested in the Magnificent Seven. I'll go watch Seven Samurai, because Seven Samurai is the era and is that story. But if I like Westerns and I didn't like Japanese, and you said, why don't you watch Seven Samurai? I'm like, I don't have any interest in it because the aesthetic is an entirely different genre.
Well, then you are looking for something entirely different with stuff.
No, I'm saying that when you take a plot point, chosen one, raised by a legendary warrior, and then that warrior goes out and he has to deal with dragons, or the hero has to go deal with dragons, and then he has to go fight the bad guy. What does that sound like?
A lot of stuff.
Aragon. Also, Wheel of Time. They just took the dragon and didn't make it a literal dragon. They just made him the dragon.
Also sounds like Dragon Ball.
There you go. See, are those all just copies of each other? Are they adaptations? No, they're just stories that have similar things. I get that you're saying that they're having more close adaptation. Like there's plot points and stuff that match more closely and akin to it. I'd call that lazy writing, because you could just come up with something of your own. But it is what
You
it
almost
is.
can't. You almost can't.
I mean, you could.
Realistically, every plot that's ever been written by humans has already been done.
Well, trope wise, yes. Plot wise, no. That's why we have different books.
Which
There'd be no
both.
reason to read 100 books if 99 of them are the exact same. Like, there's no reason to buy them. Like,
Well,
people would read
sometimes
them because
that one difference is worth it. You know.
maybe, but why would you not wait until somebody else reads it? That's a real reason to
I
waste
wanna
your
read
time.
it.
Well, I mean, I like reading, but I want to read stuff that actually is interesting. I don't want to be like, hey, this is just like Snow White.
Hold on.
Hey, this is just like, Cinderella. Hey, this is just like, freaking Wheel of Time. Hey, this is like, I don't want to read a rendition of the tales I do like or care about or that I grew up on to be just scrambled and then turn into something else, right? Like, at least 50 Shades of Grey doesn't look like the same freaking thing as Twilight. At least. And Twilight was, at least, doesn't look like
good.
freaking Harry Potter. Like,
Yeah.
so, like, when it comes, or you have to dip for a
No.
second.
Like I said, you and my friend have an interesting and a fairly unique viewpoint.
I have a
I
very unique...
value it, but I always say you have to remember, just because you take that viewpoint doesn't mean everyone else has to.
Oh,
You know.
I'm not saying that people have to take my viewpoint. I'm not saying people have to agree with me. What I am saying is that there are differences and there are similarities. If there are similarities, like, oh, well, they ate bread in this one. Well, they ate bread in this one too, and that was 2,000 years earlier, so this is clearly a ripoff. It's kind of a dumb thing to say.
You can find similarities between almost anything nowadays.
Well, like, okay, how many personality types are there? Can you have funny people? Well, they had a funny person in this one. They had a funny person in this one. They had the same personality. They use different weapons. They behave differently because they use different period transportation. They do different strategies because they have different terrain to work with. Like, there's lots of things you could have differently. Do I think the Magnificent Seven is a grand piece of work of art on its own? Not particularly, because they took so much inspiration from one particular thing that they basically didn't create something they could have easily just created on their own without intentionally doing as much as they did, right? Like, it is doable. Whether they do it or not, that's on them. But people like to take things that are successful stories, put their own twist on them, and claim it as their own, which I think is crap. Do I think that they shouldn't exist? No, I'm not saying that they shouldn't exist, but I don't think that people should praise the Magnificent Seven just because the Seven Samurai was, useful. But I would say more of akin to the Seventh Samurai story being told in the anime adaptation of Samurai 7. Those are more similar to each other because it's just a story told from a little bit of an awkward position with a little bit of mixtures in, but it's at least Japan to Japan. So then you can be like, okay, well, it's an alternative take on this classic story, as opposed to like, well, we have this entirely different genre, entirely different culture, entirely different everything, but it has a couple crossover points that are mostly just coincidentally, but then there are the few, like picking out particular personalities of characters that are going to overlap. That might be the inspiration they pulled from it. I don't know, but it just seems like they just were so freaking lazy. They're like, we're just going to take this and change it to Western. That's what it sounds like. But
well, they've done the other way too. Akira Kurosawa did an adaptation of King Lear called Ron, which he based on. He took King Lear's plot lines and characters, and took Japanese historical figures and made Ron. It was a great movie, great adaptation.
I've never heard of it, but
well, I've seen all of Kurosawa's films, so
I would say I don't mind people taking inspiration, but when they do, like, when we look at Tolkien, he took a lot of like Finnish inspiration and whatnot, but he also took like a character like a dwarf and made the dwarves, and they behave, from what I understand, entirely different besides the blacksmithing thing. than the dwarves of
Well,
Finnish folklore and stuff, mythology.
in Scandinavian folklore, dwarves are a controversial figure, right? So you notice how the dwarves in Tolkien are very similar to the older elves. So the dwarves being what we think they look like is a more Christian interpretation. If you go back to the fragments of older stuff for dwarves, they're more like elves that were shorter. You know what I mean?
Well, that's
So
what I'm saying though, is like Tolkien, he took the concept of like a short stunted people and then kind of just made his own thing with it.
well, they weren't short and stunted; they were just shorter elves.
Well, sure, but I'm saying like they're I mean dwarves technically aren't that short. Like they're not like super crazy. They're like 5 foot at like tallest. Like they're not like
But they
super
look like elves.
They're
They
not
didn't look
3 foot.
like
Sure,
they didn't look like
but
powerhouses.
that's to my point though. He took a title and a behavior, like a basic behavior that they're known for, and he took a title and then he made his own species out of it. So he pulls inspiration, but he doesn't pull the creature in. Now, if he had made them just short elves and did basically all the things that the mythological folklore did, then he's not creating his own species. He's by definition just pulling somebody else's. But he didn't do that.
Yeah.
He said, I take these little inspirations. As opposed to like, oh, I took inspirations from Magnificent Seven from Seven Samurai. You didn't take inspirations. You took the story and just threw a coat of paint over it. That's all you did.
He ultimately went with the Christian view of dwarves because there wasn't enough surviving material of the what seemed to be the Scandinavian view that they were like another species of elf.
Yeah. Well, we have succeeded past the 30-minute mark, my friend.
For a 30-second video.
1 minute video, but yes.
If you cared that much about historical accuracy, you wouldn't be watching Netflix.
I don't. Unless I have to like cover it.
Well, that's another
But then
bullshit statement.
She also again just nuked her own argument. Because she's saying it's just to be racist. Well, it's not just to be racist if it's historically inaccurate. She's so upset about all these other historical inaccuracies, but she's apparently fine if it's just a race swap. It's just like, I don't understand. It doesn't have to be about racism. It has to be spot the difference. It's Hollywood spot the difference. Can you spot the difference? Yes. You're a racist. Can you spot the difference? No. Well, you just don't care about historical inaccuracies. It's like, which one is it? Say what?
I want to say something else. People bitch about Netflix or Amazon or whatever making woke stuff. There's a lot of good stuff on those networks, right? Like not everything that's on those networks is woke. And
I just wish they would put as much care into making them as they claim.
Get over it!
I mean, you could get over it since you just nuked your entire argument. Why should anybody care about the leather armor, the horribly uncovered hair, or anything? Because black people are in it.
Go to the comments for her.
The only place I truly care about historical accuracy and historical history documentaries. But if you're covering the historical period, is it not supposed to be a historical documentary? Otherwise, it's fantasy. And if it's fantasy, there is no historical documentary.
Mm-hmm.
How would a black person have risen to the position of power back then? When back then is the year 747 of the reign of the Unicorn Queen. What? So you're saying it's a fantasy based off of real life because they have no skill and talent. Cool. That's cool. If you care much about historical accuracy, you wouldn't watch Netflix. Never been wiser words. Exactly. Period. Then where are we supposed to watch them? Every Hollywood rendition is apparently not historically inaccurate, except with a few small exceptions. Do we just not watch TV ever? Oh, that'll help the freaking industry. Then there's me who watches Bernadette Banner every year to find out what the costume department got wrong this past year. I don't even know what that is. Also, as a cousin to this, sexist demanding that every single society in the past is run on the same gender model as trad, wife, TikTok, and women having personalities or agency is historically inaccurate. Perhaps one of my favorite examples of this was someone claiming that a show was a feminist propaganda because the woman in it swore, fought, and disrespected men. Q historian chipping in with quite a few primary sources of that era of women using very crude language, fistfighting over pews, insulting men, and at least one case of a woman bludgeoning a man with a brick because he tried to assault her on the street. That's not the same. Oh my gosh. Man tries to assault the woman, so she bludgeons him. That's clearly not the same as everyday behavior, but okay.
Yeah. Some of these comments though could be funny. So I said let's check a couple out.
As an historian, okay, you're a historian who doesn't know how freaking English works. As a historian, there's no reason to put an. It doesn't start with a vowel. Who specialized in medieval Europe, and someone who's been involved in media creation for almost a decade. I wholeheartedly appreciate that. I wish you'd appreciate your freaking lack of ability to freaking write English.
Yeah.
Stupid uses of cavalry. That actually happens, though, is the problem. To be fair, I tried to watch the History Channel for accuracy, and they show ancient aliens. That's valid. They found an 11-year-old girl with West African DNA, 30 or 40%, who likely had a grandparent from West Africa buried in an Anglo-Saxon grave. People have been traveling forever. Traveling! Hey, look at that. Traveling is a word. And again, that would be an exception, not the rule. But they don't understand that. It's like saying, today, we go to freaking Greece, and I find a 50-year-old grave, and it's a black person. Whoa, the Greeks were black! It's the freaking dumbest thing you could ever say. Even if they had one black person back then, which obviously they did, because back then they moved slaves like freaking candy. But that doesn't mean the Greeks were black. It means they had black people, whether slaves or freed slaves, or whatever variation they took. Oh my gosh. Ethiopians and Egyptians moved to different places. They're also, one of those is black, the other is not. Because our countries make quality goods and they travel the world selling those. Yes, but you would travel to trading hubs to sell them, because then those trading hubs would have sellers that come down from other places like the north, the south, east, or west, whatever direction you didn't come from, and they would pick up your goods and travel to those places. They didn't travel themselves necessarily all the way to the freaking North Pole to give Santa some freaking wool so he could build some stockings. Like, that's not how this works. If you cared that much about history, I don't care about that. It's like they think 100% of Africans stayed in Africa until the slave trade was established. No, we're saying that just because somebody travels to a place and dies there does not mean that the entire population was this way, or that the majority of them were even. The minority of them weren't even that way. It was an exception to the rule, not the rule. Because let's say this way. Viking comes down, gets a African wife, takes her back up or lives down there, whichever way one. If he lives down there, eventually his kids will all be African black because, shocking, there's more African blood floating around. If you go up, if she takes her back up to the freaking Scandinavian territories, guess what? The kid's going to be more white the further they go, because every time a black person melds with a whole bunch of white people, it's going to breed out one aspect of that family.
Yeah.
And it will eventually go out. Maybe a couple hundred years, maybe 1,000 years, but eventually it will peter out. That's how DNA works. So if they go north, they're going to be white. If they go south, they're going to be black. That's just how that is, because that's where the majority of those people are. Unless you're Sicily, then we just get everybody. And we're going to have we're going to have literally everything, and we're going to have our unique look because we have everything. That's the whole point. Melanin endowed is just a weird one. I do like her goblin stuff, though. But it's funny that her call people peasants and then has the most peasant kind of argument I've ever seen. The most frequent context I heard historical accuracy being used before was authors or studios depicting sexual violence against women in a fantasy series, which is just as important. Depicting something is not a prescription to do something. It just means that's how you tell the villains from the good guys. If the bad guys can't do bad things, how do you tell that they're not good guys? Well, at least this villain doesn't beat a woman. So what's villainous about him? Well, he corrected someone's grammar. What the frick are we doing, people? Like,
you there?
I love this. Sir Palamedes, who is from the Middle East, Northern Africa. Neither of those is black. Just want to throw that out there. Oh my gosh. And here we go. One of my favorite things to say about the high age of Norse piracy is a Viking could come with his Moorish wife and her British thralls. We have written accounts of Norse and Celtic people in China, longboats down the Nile, and sagas of New World and That's not how that works. Indigenous is not indigenous. However they spelled it. Holy frick. People discovering lactose intolerance. Racism is not new, but the world has always been both bigger and smaller than... Oh my gosh. We're arguing that you're stupid. Like, yes, they can travel. But no, they will not stay that way. That's the point. Wherever you take a person out of their majority demographic of populace, whether they're black, Asian, white, Middle Eastern, whatever the case might be, if you pull them out and put them in a place where their demographic is a small percentage, and we're talking minuscule, by definition, their entire bloodline, assuming they have one, will not be of their original demographic. Pick a demographic. It doesn't matter. Pull a white person out of Europe and throw them in a freaking India. Their bloodline will not stay white. It will turn into Indian. Period. That's the nature of how demographics work with DNA and biology and how we breed as a populace. This is not new. This is basic science. Please go back to school. But yes, we have written accounts of Norse and Celtic people in China. Cool story, bro. That doesn't mean that the Chinese are Celtic or Nordic.
Nope.
Like, seriously. Why am I crashing out about this? This is basic history.
You just extended our thing to like 20 minutes with your rant.
10 minutes, but yes.
Is she done?
Yeah, that was the minute. But
I mean, that's a good comment. Our comments are better than our presentation. I'll say that much.
Like, and again, normally her stuff is very entertaining. You get to talk about Book Goblin, and she's like, "I'll go get you a book, but you can't bite people," kind of thing. Like, it's a funny, cute little acting play that she makes where she plays all the roles and everything, and it's funny. It's truly fun, enjoyable content. This one just came out of left field. No idea why. She had to go crash out about this, but it's making me crash out because it's just the sheer stupidity behind these things.
Maybe she finally succumbed to TDS, you know?
I mean, maybe not. But it's like, if we didn't want, if she's like, if you think that this isn't normal, stop watching Netflix. And if everybody who thought it wasn't normal stopped watching Netflix, Netflix would break down and nobody would be able to watch Netflix because they wouldn't be able to maintain it.
You know what probably happened? One of our friends who she talks books with and shows like this with, probably out of the blue, it was a secret conservative type and brought up some of this stuff, and it shattered our worldview of him, challenged our worldview. Like, so she's overreacting, like acting out with this sort of rant because of that. That's probably what happened.
Probably somebody gave her the emotional SJW keyboard warrior spiel and went ball sacks deep on somebody.
Like because our friend was a secret conservative who believed in historical accuracy, she had to make a video like this to show our worth, you know. To quote Mortal Kombat, no, Street Fighter.
Okay, listen to this stupid comment. Yes, it's like people wanting historical accuracy in D&D and Warhammer and similar. No thanks, history is important, but realism gets in the way of fun fantasy ideas. Nobody is calling for that. Not a single person. You know what historical accuracy in D&D and Warhammer is? It's the accurate to that world's universe.
Yeah.
That's what historical accuracy is.
Yeah.
Like, for example, we say Warhammer 40k, there are no female Space Marines. Shocking news, breaking news, there are no female Space Marines. I don't even know Warhammer 40k freaking lore, and I know that. Like, it's basic knowledge of that universe, but trying to put it in, well, it's not fun. Nothing about Warhammer 40k universe is fun. It's depressing as all get out. Like, you don't know what you're trying to get into. Oh my gosh. I'm legitimately getting angry at this, and we need to stop before I lose my mind.
So is this the only video we got?
Yeah, that was all it took. That was all it took. But, oh my gosh. Breathe. Okay. So, Final thoughts, good sir.
She clearly like had a liberal aneurysm or something like that, and
I feel
just
like
had to
I feel
get
like
it,
that's disrespectful to liberalism.
yeah, or
Uh,
something, because like for what you describe her content as normally, it seems she was staying politically neutral and keeping it to books.
she just talks about
And
books, and it's fine. It's great content. Like, go
yeah,
check out her other content. It's actually enjoyable. I enjoy her content, but this was just weird. I watched this whole thing the first time, and I didn't think that much about it. But now I'm getting into it. I'm
well,
just like, oh, it hurts my head. It hurts my head. Maybe it's because I hit myself in the
it's
temple
I mean,
today.
hey,
That could be it.
I know people hate the guy now, but it's like how Daniel Green was before the Wheel of Time show existed. He mostly talked about the
Before
books.
he became racist, before he became a whole bunch of other things that were
Well,
stupid.
now he's been ejected from the left, but
Well, yes, that's why you don't pander to them. You don't have to pander to the right. You don't have to pander to the left. You don't have to
well,
pander. Just make your own content.
I don't think Green was pandering. I think he legitimately thought he was one of them, so he had to like the show, even though he knew it sucked.
That's literally definitional pandering.
No, pandering is when you
He's
do it for
pandering to
money.
the one of us crowd. That's what he's
But you
pandering
do
to.
pandering is when you do it for money.
I mean, he is doing it for money. Every
I
YouTuber
don't,
is a grifter.
I don't think he was. I just say pandering to the left for money. I think he was doing it because he's one of
Well,
them, and he thought he had to do it.
pandering isn't an inherent like people don't pander when they make movies now. When they're pandering to the left, they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it for the virtue signal clout.
No, there are people who do it for the money.
Well, everyone does it for the money. Even the people who say I don't do it for the money do it for the money. But here's the thing: when we refer to pandering to a demographic, whether it be pandering to this demographic, that demographic, left, right, or whatever, we're referencing that they're trying to win points with those people. They are trying to draw them in which,
Well,
by
no, okay.
definition, they will make money. But they're also
You are
trying to get
referencing
people.
it as if for politics, though. I'm saying the majority of people who pander do it for monetary gain, not political gain. Um, this political pandering is a
There's no money in
relatively
it
new
for
thing.
that aspect.
Well, there's inclusivity in a group, right? So Daniel Green, I think, saw himself as being in this left group, was shocked when the majority of Wheel of Time fans weren't.
Well,
Said,
believe it or not, most Wheel of Time people, they have this. There's a great divide in the Wheel of Time fandom, in which I'm not saying that's the thing you should be shocked about, but there's a great divide in the Wheel of Time fandom in which a lot of the people who run the channels are on the left. And
yeah.
then there's a lot of the people who consume the work that aren't inherently that far on that side of the political
No,
spectrum.
I mean, I would agree with you. I think there's
Like,
a high percentage of
you
Wheel of
can be on the
Time.
left and still not be that left because you're not
Yeah,
like you understand that there is a description of a character. That's the character. There's a personality
yeah,
type. That's their personality type. There is a geographical region that looks this particular way. Like
yeah,
the fortress in Tyr, the stone of Tyr. Like
yeah.
there are if you went to the stone of Tyr and it's a flat land, you'd be like, there's a problem with that. You don't have to be left, you don't have to be right. You just say there's a problem with that because
Yeah.
it's not what it says. Or if you're putting freaking Faldara in the middle of freaking nowhere
Well,
in a
I'm saying, just
desert, which is
focusing
no reason.
on Daniel Green. I think he knew the show was bad. You could hear it in the tone of his voice in the first few reviews he did of it, but I don't think he felt that he could admit it was bad because of the pandering and him
Well,
being on the left.
Brandon Sanderson thought the same thing, but he was doing it from more angles. Like he was trying to stay out of things so he could get his own Amazon show
I
for
think he was
Stormlight
pandering
Archives.
for money.
Well, yeah, but he wanted to get his own show for Stormlight Archives, and he
Yeah,
wanted to get other things. So he was like, I disagree with them on this part, but it's their show. So
yeah.
he wasn't bad mouthing, but he was saying, I
Well, I
try to
remember
steer
we
them.
watched that video of him tearing it apart.
Yeah.
That video was right after he got that like 35 or $40 million GoFundMe.
Yeah. But the thing is that
Which is way more money than he will ever need to publish a book.
he doesn't need them; they need him, and that's something they just don't seem to understand or recognize, which is it's weird because Hollywood has this massive narcissistic ego streak, and they think that everybody needs us, we don't need them.
Brandon
Just
Sanderson is not secure financially for the rest of his life, and
provided he's smart with his money. Yes.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean that's a taken as a given, like that.
Well,
That
you'd think, but most people who win the
no, what
lottery
I
are
mean
broke
is
within a month or two.
what I mean is it's taken as a given that they have to be smart with their money. You know,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Like if
so
you ever win the lottery and you have like $40 million or $100 million, live the same way you're living right then and there, like in a small house with low property tax, and get that money to basically make dividends for you every single freaking month, and you'll never have to work another day in your life.
well, sort of. You got to make yourself more secure because you'll
Well,
get the
I'm
people
saying
coming
like
out of it.
that's like the basic run of the mill. It's not like the
Yeah,
ultimate financial advice or anything. It's literally just saying that's how you would
yeah.
do it. Not just go out and buy a mansion that's $3 million, because the property taxes will kill you. That's
Yeah.
like you go to millionaires. They say, "Yeah, I have this broken down car or like run down old looking car,
Yeah.
but it still runs, so I use it. I'm not going to go blow money on another car where it's just going to cost me more money. That's why I'm still the millionaire. I don't spend
Yeah.
my
Who
money,
is that
therefore I
other
stay a
guy?
millionaire."
The other Wheel of Time YouTuber,
The Dusty Wheel,
the one who was with Sanderson and Daniel Green.
Dusty Wheel.
Yeah, he
That's
was a
Matt. That's
shill
the
from the
other Matt.
beginning.
That's the other Matt.
Yeah, he was a shill from the beginning.
Well, before the show was announced, all these places were usually pretty fun to go to. There's a lot of
And
content that was
okay, let me.
enjoyable.
The reason I'm stopped talking is 'cause I'm trying to avoid coughing and talking, so I don't.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Um, so he was a shill from the beginning, and like you could see in his face when Sanderson and Daniel Green were ripping apart the show.
He was
You know,
surprised.
he was surprised and like trying to steer the conversation back to not ripping it apart. You know, and like I think, I hope that we've moved past a lot of the people who are like we exposed enough of our type of channels that talk about this content more respectfully towards it and with more accuracy towards the source material, that going forward will depend less on the Daniel Greens and Dusty Wheels of the world.
I don't know, because there are a lot more people that follow them than that follow us, and I'm not saying that because you need to come to my channel.
Oh,
I'm
you or
saying
me,
that
yeah.
from a perspective of that's just the way it is. Like
No, but I
more
mean, you or me, yes, but not Gary from Neurotic and Disparu.
sure, but Gary from
You know.
Neurotic, I don't even think he watched the whole first season of Wheel of Time to know like how bad it was. And even if he did, he would just say
Well,
that was bad. He wouldn't
he hasn't
know.
read the
Yeah,
books.
Well, yeah, he read a little bit of the Eye of the
I think
World.
he's reading the books now.
Yeah, but like from his perspective, he would say that was bad, like story wise and everything. But if
Yeah.
he read the books and then watched it, he'd go nuclear.
No,
And
but I think if I
that's what we
remember
wanted to do.
correctly, he stopped watching the show because he started reading the books and wants to finish the show watching after he's done with the books.
Sure. I don't know how long it's
Because he
going
was
to take him.
talking something like that on
But again,
on
he only needs to watch the first watch the 4 books. He needs to read the first 4 books to basically cover what they covered in 3 seasons.
yeah.
But
Well, that may
if
be
he wants to
true,
go
but
super autistic, finish the whole series, and then he'll see even more problems with it. Than
he's the
that.
type of reader who would finish the whole series. So
Sure.
you know, yeah.
I mean, it's a
But when
great
he
series,
made
so it deserves
when he
it.
made the comments, it was before they had canceled it. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, he even mentioned it like a month or 2 back in one of the Friday Night Tights, and I always like when it's brought up because it's something like we need to keep it alive to kill it again because
yeah,
it's a disgrace to the material in every way. And here's the thing. As much as I'm a source material purist, so whatever the source material says is what I would run with, right? Like that's just my particular stance on things. Now if the only issue with the show, like the only issue with the show was the race swaps, I would hate it a lot less. I'd still be bothered by it, but I could at least probably watch it, depending on how bad it got. But they didn't get anything right, which is a problem. And
see, I'm more concerned with the culture, with the ethnic swapping, because Jordan set his world up a specific way. You
Well,
know,
I'm not. Don't misunderstand me. I'm 100% with you. I'm just saying that if the show did something specific, like it stuck to the storyline in every way imaginable, but the only difference was there was some race swaps, that would be the minor sin comparative to the plot line being desecrated horribly.
no, let me. I mean, Jordan set up the ethnic groups on his world as important plot points for each one of them. Well, not every one of them, but most of them, bringing something peculiar to that culture to the table as the story went on.
Well, they
You
also
know,
like for when the show shows up and says, "Hey, every place is diverse. Every place is the same as everywhere else." It's like, okay, then why is Ilion and Tyr fighting? They're the same
yeah,
people group. They have the same family. Everything about them is the same. Are you saying it's exclusively because their government's
yeah,
different than their government? Because
yeah.
nobody, you don't have governments that are the same. Everything, population and everything, like they're all brothers and sisters to everybody. They don't fight each other just because, especially when Ilion and Tyr, there's a whole empty space in between them. They have no
Well, they made
reason. They're not on each other's border. There's like a huge gap in between them.
yeah.
Mayens in between
Well,
them.
they did the cultural racist thing with the Borderlander by making them Asian because they have honor.
They follow the stereotype. Well, by that definition, all of the Aiel should be Asian as well. So,
Yeah,
yay. Except for the fact that they're explicitly really tall, redhead, pale-skinned people that
yeah,
are nomads with Japanese honor culture, not Japanese. Like the fun thing about his cultures that he has in there and the people groups is that they're broken down into different categories. That there's like 3 or 4 ethnicity cultures or whatever that they cram into it, but they take the aspects of one of those in some shape or form. So you have Irish people or Irish/Scottish tall people that don't have accents, and they're nomads in the desert slash waste, more of a wasteland than a desert, but you get the idea. It's a wasteland, and they have the honor of the Japanese, but they have the fighting tactics of the Bedouin. They have they have all these aspects, and they have like the dwelling, the design and architecture of another one. Like that's how it is with everywhere. Like freaking Tyr has like apparently like was it Vietnam or
yeah,
I think it's Vietnam architecture, but they're Spaniards.
yeah.
It's like you have these individual cool little pieces, which is a perfect chance to cast an entire group of diverse
Yeah.
people all over the place because you have an entire nation of a diverse group of people. You have an entire
Yep.
nation of another diverse group of people, and you have them everywhere. But we can't do that. So we have to kill the story's ability to make logical sense and to tell the story properly because everywhere needs to be diverse. Otherwise, we might be racist. It's like, well, I hate to tell you this, but the only place the world's not, or the only place the world is diverse is literally the West. Everywhere else, it's not diverse.
Yeah.
It's not diverse anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But either way, all right. We'll knock it off there, I guess. So thanks everybody for sticking around. Check out. Sorry, this way. Check out Matt's content. From whenever he makes new content and all the streams he's on, like Roman of the Empire and stuff like that. Do you want to shill yourself or no?
Yeah. So every Wednesday, we took this week off, but the week that we're going to be broadcasting. But every Wednesday on Joker Voice's channel, the Joker Voice, one word, we broadcast Wednesdays overbooked at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We discuss the world of wrestling, primarily attending the WWE. And every Thursday on Roman of the Empire channel, one word, we do a weekly show where we review a movie or a TV show or talk about topics related to science fiction, fantasy, and horror. I have my own channel that I do. I do still drop some stuff on. I did a review of the Supergirl trailer. Um, I reviewed John Cena's last match and so forth. So I will drop. I still do drop content on my channel. Oh, I did a video. My 5 things I would change about the Naruto story. That's up now too.
Cool. Um, I do the same schedule as I always do. So Fridays and Sundays, noon Central Standard Time. You get video drops, and then on Tuesdays we do a live stream, usually gaming live stream. We've just finished up on the Lord of the Rings Game Boy Advance games, and we will be moving on to the Lord of the Rings console versions, which are they're entirely different games. So that'll be fun. I still have to make sure those work. Um, and then out of the Game Boy Advance games, the Third Age Game Boy Advance game was atrocious. It made me very upset because it's pure randomness. There is no actual strategy or tactics that you work with. It just randomly slot machines you numbers, and you could spend the entire game with zero, just because randomness. Um, but yeah, we got that on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Um, I do on occasion do a Monday night stream. Lately, it's been pretty frequent because I've been playing. I finished Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I will eventually do a review for that, but I don't know when. I mean, it's going to be a very short review because there's not a whole lot to really work with in that regard. Um, it was an okay game. There was a lot of parts I had problems with. Other stuff, it felt like an Indiana Jones, but it was weird to be first person. But Troy Baker did a fantastic job with the voice acting aspect. The script had some sus points, but it's okay. But last Monday, I played No Man's Sky because I've been on a No Man's Sky kick. So if anybody wants to play with me, you are
I
more than
remember
welcome.
that game.
It's a fun game. It's really fun. They fixed
That's
it.
an explorer game, right?
Yeah, it's space floor. It's space exploration,
Yeah,
but it's like
I played that for a few months.
my face froze because of course it did. Great face. Um, I love having basically like infinite planets to peruse, and I'm slowly getting there. I'm learning more and more things about a little bit of everything. The ship combat could be a little bit better, I think, but it's mostly how the ship maneuvers rather than anything else. But I think they're going for more like hyper realistic rather than uh,
Mm.
fun combat in that regard. I mean, like they want fun combat, but they're going more realism than they are. So, like if you turn the ship,
Yeah,
it actually takes time to turn.
yeah. I was
So,
just getting into it when I got sick last year.
it's definitely a fun one to do. So, I would
Yeah,
definitely recommend it if anybody wants to play. It's on sale for $24, I think, on Steam right now.
yeah.
But
And it does
I,
not have very intensive hardware requirements.
it doesn't really. It still looks good even on the low settings. I typically play on the lower
Yeah,
settings because streaming sucks up half of the
but it
freaking
runs
data.
well on older hardware.
Yeah. And they also fixed it up, gave us a whole bunch of content for free and everything. So it's not the way it launched. And now it's actually like legitimately really, really good. And I'm having a blast and I'm constantly thinking about playing it. So at some point, I'm going to do Expedition 33. At some point, I'm going to do Ghost of Tsushima. If I can figure out how to finish Stellar Blade, because I'm on the last boss, if I can beat it and, and then just do New Game Plus and go through it again, I'll do that as well. Um,
Yeah,
uh, there's lots of games. I need to go through the Tomb Raider games. I need to play a whole. I have a list of games to play.
yeah.
I got the Resident Evil games, so I just so much to do in so little time. But that'll be something on what I call a chill stream on Monday. Sometimes and occasionally on a Sunday night, but mostly on Monday nights. Um, but you can join the Discord to find out what I am live streaming because I have a live streaming channel there that you can go and find out. Also, we have memes on the Discord, which is what most people want. I post like a billion of them a day, so should be pretty easy for you to
He is
not
the
be bored.
meme lord of our chat, our Discord.
That's a bit excessive, but I just find memes. I think they're funny, and I post them.
He is the youngest person who spends that much time on Facebook.
Well, Facebook was the only thing I had until
Like
Twitter.
if you start spending time on Facebook, the average age on Facebook would rise into the 70s.
Yeah, well, probably am honestly. I don't really use it that often, but when I do, I meme. I also have access to Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle Earth all in one. The mod thing. It's not my mod, or it's not a mod really. It's the games where Abandonware, a group of people came together, wanted to upgrade the graphics and add campaigns and stuff, and make it playable, easier to play on the newer machines and stuff. And they did a fantastic job. So I give a link to that download. It takes like 5 minutes to download and install. It's really simple. I even personally went out of the way and made my own installation guide just so everybody could understand how to do it. And if you can't figure that out, you're probably dead, because you have to be brain dead for that to be the case. And
Yeah.
honestly, I think a brain dead person could probably figure it out too.
Sure.
So don't be that person who can't figure it out. But I just helped somebody play it last
Don't be
night,
that guy.
and they were going like, "Oh, dude, I love this." So they've been missing it too. So I got somebody converted back to it. But yeah, I'm also on there more active. So if you pop in there and want to chat, you can chat with me and we can philosophize about stuff, or you can tell me I'm stupid. Whatever floats your boat. You can also follow on Twitter/X if you want to. Both of those are in the description, as well as follow me on Criticless. I don't really review TV movies because I don't really watch TV or movies. Maybe eventually I will. But I'm waiting for them to add video games, and I will just put out a ton of video game reviews because I like video games. And that's what I specialize in, more or less. Movies and TV shows are more Matt's thing. But I might do one here and there. Like I still have to do Die Hard as a Christmas movie review. I shouldn't need to, but apparently that is something we need to. Yeah. Check out the content creators down on the list below. You will find Matt on that list as well. And see if there's anybody that you think is
Our
worth your
list
time.
down below is filled with tons of Sicilian awesomeness.
A mixture, you might say. And also check out some businesses that kind of support our side of the universe. Not this channel specifically, but like they're not they're not anti free speech. They're anti censorship. And that kind of stuff. And they're always trying to be pro consumer and that kind of behavior. So I add them to the list. So if you think of a business that you think could be on there, I'll add them to the list if I check them out and I think they're good. So thanks everybody for sticking around, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, my friends, walk in the light.
Probably.